Hi everyone, I'm Chantal Broderick. Thank you for joining me. Today's special episode of the Fitness Business Podcast is brought to you by our podcast partner, OneFitStop. OneFitStop provides scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools that will set your business up for success. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by a long-term friend and supporter of the show, Jarron Aizen, the founder of OneFitStop. Jarron, it is always great to see you.
Hey, Chantal. Great to be back on the show.
Now, I want to start off first and foremost by saying thank you so much to OneFitStop for your ongoing support, because I know that you and I have caught up quite a lot over the last couple of months to talk about all of the work that OneFitStop have been doing. Now, today we're going to take a slightly different look at what's going on out there in the world, because obviously the impact of COVID over these last few months has really made the fitness industry rethink about the way that they're actually doing business. We've seen it in every single country. People have really had to reposition what they're doing and, as I said, rethink about what they're doing. So today you're going to specifically talk to us about the ways that clubs can, or club operators I should say, can actually create a hybrid physical and digital experience that will make an impact and make it meaningful for their members. So before we actually talk about that topic of digital transformation, do you want to first just describe for us a typical club that will benefit from the information that we're going to chat about today?
Definitely. And I think that, today's session is going to resonate with a boutique or a big box business and, your owners and operators of these facilities who have over the last 3 months started to heavily potentially already invest in digital transformation in the business, where it may have just been an initial strategy to go live and live stream classes or produce on-demand video content, but are really trying to find a way to understand how it will impact the business in the long run. And so I believe the session will greatly benefit these businesses who are starting to now invest the time to plan for the next 6, 12, and 18 months down the track.
Okay, so let's dive into that detail. Talk us through how those club operators can start to really implement those digital transformations into their business.
So one of the biggest things with the world of digital, and maybe I'll start with, where did the market go to when COVID hit, and then how it's going to sort of progress. But the reality of digital, when you're selling digital as a standalone product, is that the biggest misconception, if you haven't been in this world before, is that churn is much higher than what it exists as at your physical location when you're selling, your core product that you've always sold in the market. And so there has to be a deeper long-term intrinsic value, and you have to continue to invest in marketing and sales efforts just to keep these numbers up to a certain critical mass to make it worth your while. And so I think what we're seeing in the industry is some businesses are completely pivoting into digital. Some are creating a whole new segment of their business, which they have now both physical and digital. And then you have what is this digital transformation of let's look within. Let's not necessarily add a whole new department running live streaming and on demand, but let's look at how digital can influence the way we interact with our customers, where when they're not inside the four walls, where else can we help interact? What else can we do to interact better with them? And I think it's at that point supplementing your existing core services and adding a little bit more depth and differentiation to what you're already providing to the market. And that too can strengthen your positioning now as you reopen your doors and come out stronger and leverage digital.
And you've actually got a couple of case studies or examples that you're going to share with us today. So do you want to start to walk us through those?
Definitely. I think, let's start on the surface layer again. And, when we're talking live streaming, this is what everyone started to do. And live streaming generally had, two main concepts. One was, I want my clients and members to turn on their cameras, and I want my instructors to be able to see what they're doing. And I want to continue that community feel, which is why they're going to be consuming my live streaming over another brand that produces it for the masses. And so there is that point of differentiation, but it's no, you're on a Zoom, you lose potentially quality in streaming, and everyone's dealing with, sound and audio qualities on the microphone and background music tracks, and now potentially new music licensing problems that may arise from that as well. And on the other side, you've got brands who are investing into, thousands of dollars worth of camera gear, lights, sound, audio, all of this, and they're broadcasting rather than, having this Zoom interaction, two-way video stream. So instead of, the two-way, it's literally like you're watching a live, sports replay or something like that, and it's on camera like that. So, I think in the industry, we're seeing a mix between both of these options depending on the brand itself. And, this forms part of what I would call bridging services through digital during COVID. And now as doors are reopening, it's like, okay, well, do we continue to still stream? And is it important to do that? Or are we going to dilute our core? We want to get everyone back into physical, back into the club. So do we want to stop streaming altogether and promote our core services? Or is this something that can take off as a separate segment and to our business? And should we continue doing that?
Always helps when I take myself off mute. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I feel as though that is something that I've heard quite a lot just in the last couple of weeks. So as you mentioned, as people are starting to reopen, they're thinking, oh, well, we have had a degree of success doing that digital distribution. So what does that model look like moving forward? So Jarron, I guess in your experience and from the clubs that you deal with, what does that look like? What does success look like in that transformed world or in the next phase?
So I think it's twofold. On one hand, when we're talking to clubs, they don't want to dilute their physical offering. They do want to get people back in, but they are aware that some people don't want to come back, but still want to be associated with the brand, at least for a short while. And so you are still seeing, maybe not as frequent, but they are still doing live sessions and trying to interact digitally with those that haven't made their way back to physical. And so too, you can generate revenue from that, and you can still create this digital community. But then we're definitely finding these businesses that are trying to create this live streaming and on-demand world of content as a whole separate business model. And this requires a lot more investment of capital and outlay, because at that point, when you're actually selling it as an independent product, this is where you're now playing officially in the digital space. And this is where, if your quality of production and your marketing and sales approaches aren't quite sophisticated, you're going to see quick churn and you're not going to get these long-term results. And so most of the brands at that point are moving away from a Zoom style interaction and more to a high quality broadcast, because they end up not being able to build this community that you've built in your four walls, but rather it's the quality of the production and the instructors and how dynamic they are to video, not to a group of people in front of them, as to what will influence the profitability and the longevity of this new vehicle in their business, essentially. And so we're seeing those actually who want to continue this in the business invest heavily into more high-end gear and broadcasting tools to make sure the quality will help reduce that churn.
So, Jarron, based on what you've just described for us, let's assume that we've got a club operator that's listening that doesn't necessarily want to go down the path of creating an entire new business model, but what they do want to do is take their traditional business and I guess enhance it with those digital touch points or transformations that you're talking about. Can you paint a picture for us of what that would actually look like?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that as a concept, and definitely in the long run here, 6, 12, 18 months down the track, we will be finding that digital will provide supplementary value, deep supplementary value to your existing business model. And so I thought it would be great to, start to share what we're seeing in the industry of how people are getting businesses are getting super creative already on how it may actually go down that path, and things that you can actually implement in your business already today that will start to lead you on that path without creating a whole separate business model, but just supplementing what you have already. So
love the sound of that. Let's dive in.
There's a few on the list. So I'm going to start with the your traditional challenges, fitness challenges, very popular both in boutique and big box operations. And going digital doesn't just mean that you are producing on-demand video content. It actually is a little bit beyond that. It's video, it's articles and recipes and partner network, referral discounts or community discounts. It's a whole lot more. And so when you're thinking about each of these areas and each of these cases, think that it's broader than just video. So let's take this case of running your challenge. Let's call it a 6-week challenge. The value of the 6-week challenge is that every week you're essentially releasing on a timed cycle new content, or you need to be releasing new content to that database. So not only are they coming and booking physical sessions, they're booking into the gym 3 times a week to run, to hit their classes up, and you're talking about it. You got your leaderboards, written by hand in club and all this kind of stuff to track results. But the digital transformation also means that through distribution methods, you could be releasing, a week's worth of recipe ideas, articles to read that are new articles every week about, healthy transformations and, written by your specialists at your club or studio. And then you could also do, supplement your in-club with digital. This is where that on-demand comes through. So every week it's a new set of 3 to 5 exercises that you should be doing every morning when you wake up before you even, start your day. But those are the days that you're not at the gym, for example, when you're booking your in-club. And so it can completely supplement that entire experience of challenges in club, because you're now connecting them out of club as well through digital.
Yeah, I love that, Jarron. And what I particularly love is it's always been over the years a challenge, I guess, for personal trainers and for clubs to think about clever ways to be able to stay connected with their members or with their clients outside of the hours that they're physically in the facility. Because obviously the second that your client leaves the gym or leaves a personal training session, they're out there in life. They've got work, they've got things to do. So I love that these digital advances give us the opportunity to stay connected with those clients and as you said, offer up things like recipes or exercise tips or exercises for them to do outside of those hours that they're in their gym. I really like the ability that gives us to stay connected and especially during challenges, which we know are instrumental and so important when it comes to client retention.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a great showcase piece. So imagine even, after you run your challenges that, you want to highlight the progress and transformations that everyone's made. So you do a little video series immediately after, and then you open that video series up of the challenge winners in different categories on demand. They're not consuming a workout here. They're actually, watching on demand in a library of your showcase, stories of these challenges in an app or on the web, and it's more than just putting it up on social now. So once it's up on YouTube or on Facebook, it kind of goes to the bottom of the feed and everyone forgets about it in 6 months. But when it sits inside an app or when it sits embedded in your content world, people will keep coming back to these things, and that's all about the story. That's all about your brand and images and brand persona that you want to create about the effectiveness of your programming and the impact that you make into people's lives, which is ultimately why we're all here. So, there's that flow-on effect as well post the challenges that can continue to add long-term value.
Yeah, I love that one. So have you got any more for us?
I got plenty more. So,
let's keep going.
The next one is really interesting because it's about leveraging your digital transformation and marketing efforts. So, you can quite easily identify your database in different segments. Let's, at the highest level, take it as a prospect who's never consumed services, someone who's got a trial or an introductory offer, someone who's active with a pack or membership, and those that are, inactive. They may have been active before or not. Okay. So, we've got 4 or 5 different buckets overall that we want to, target using digital mediums. And so, as a concept, you could try and segment your database and use videos and articles and digital mediums to target, let's say, your introductory offers. When they're sitting in this bucket of intro offers, it's generally a short period, 7 to 14 days, or their first 3 classes, and it's that first experience to get to know your brand. So why dilute their digital experience? Don't show them your whole world of on demand. Just show them, these are your 10 different programs and exercises of different variations of classes that you're running, and you've got a little show reel for each class. So they get to know the different depth of programming that you have in the organization, so they know what classes to take. Or it could be as simple as an on-demand series of getting to know the people in the organization, the instructors, even the front desk staff, whoever it may be. And I think when you're targeting this user segment through on-demand or on-demand, like targeted videos or articles and other things like that, this is where you're starting to gain a lot of trust digitally when they're not inside the facility. And again, this is where you can tackle these challenges to grab their attention when they're from their homes or wherever they are in the world, to continue to buy and convert into a sale at that point.
So, Jarron, essentially what I'm hearing is by creating these very targeted, customer-specific offerings, it means that what we're doing is we're not bombarding them, or we're not kind of just showing them the entire menu of content that we've got available. We're saying, okay, we understand that your focus at the moment is strength training, for example, and then we're going to focus their content, their on-demand library, specifically on what they are interested in. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, it could be a particular style of interest or programming that they want to, go and consume. Or in a more broader sense, it could be just, they're an intro member, they're on a trial. It very much is, let's get rid of all the clutter around this content. Let's just show them who we are and what we're about in a broader sense, expose them to all our depth of servicing, maybe not even just what they've expressed interest in. I mean, you could go as deep as showing them just what they've expressed interest in, but certainly to show them the depth of services and the community that you create in club through digital mediums is the strength of, I believe, this segment that you can target.
It makes total sense, because I think if we kind of think about our own lives and how much content we receive on a day-to-day basis, how many messages we receive just from every part of our day, it makes sense that we want to simplify that message and get straight to the heart of what's important to each individual member. And if I'm signing up for to the gym for the very first time, then there's obviously going to be certain things or certain requirements that are particularly relevant for me. So I like that idea of essentially cutting out that clutter, cutting out the unnecessary messages and focusing on what is important to the customer at this time.
Definitely. And you could take it even one step further. We're talking here about targeting, the clients and members of facilities or prospects. But you could even target those that have potentially been to your facility and checked in for 100 different sessions, and you're a franchise trying to scale. You can then start to also target them with different on-demand content that is all about selling a franchise, and that they consume your services immensely. They've bought into your brand. Well, who better to start to target in order to begin that vetting process of who's the next franchise owner that could help scale your organization. So I think it can even be applied at a higher level for organizations that want to scale.
Jarron, I think, I love the sound of this. Like, this is kind of a dream to have all of this, processes and be able to deliver these targeted messages and content to our customers. But what I would like to do is actually speak about the practicalities of it. How do we go about turning what would be a fantastic scenario? How do we make that a reality from where our business sits currently? Can you give us some steps around that?
Definitely. And I think that, traditionally businesses will have your membership management system, which is where all your attendance and billing data sits and scheduling and all that good stuff. And then you also have a marketing engine that sits kind of over the top of it and is helping move people through those buyer journeys and keeping them active and reducing churn and all that good stuff. And so, I mean, at a fundamental level, businesses today will likely have both of those pieces. And so what's critical as a first step is being able to segment the database, okay, into these categories. I spoke about finding those that are, active on intra offers, or finding those that have attended over 100 sessions to start to mark them, to buy a franchise. You could just think about running these with your existing database. And then, it's essentially making sure that your marketing automation over the top of this nurture process leverages digital significantly, where you're actually investing in producing those videos or those articles that are going to create this level of interaction. And right now, it may seem like the only way to execute in this is potentially via email. And that is the reality until technology catches up. At OneFitStop, we believe that this has to be presented in an omni-channel experience through one app that they already have, because the app is where they're actually interacting with on an ongoing basis day to day. It's where they book their physical classes, or where they check in with their barcodes, and it's going to be where also they consume all this content. So, there are many great providers in the industry that service businesses with, member apps and things like this. And I think it will take time for everyone to essentially give you the tools and mechanisms to interact with them through this medium that they have in their hands. And this is something that at OneFitStop we have already started to do, because we know that importance of having this, we're calling it a one app approach to digital engagement, but also physical interactions that you're going to need to facilitate.
Okay, so what I would love to do, and I know that we weren't going to take it down this path, but I kind of really want to, because I would love you to share a specific example of a client who perhaps, if we rewind a little bit, maybe a couple of months, what their business looked like then versus how you've worked with them to streamline that process, bring it into that omni-channel that you just spoke about. Would you mind sharing a case study with us?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to choose one that's actually, it's a new client of ours. It's in the boxing world, and what it's a client called Tribute Boxing. They have 2 physical locations, and there are plans for expansion. And what they've gone and done is sort of created this third digital world. And so for their in-club members that train in club, they've provided it's actually not even an upsell necessarily, it's a value add. So when you hold a membership to the facility and you're doing in-club training, so too via the apps will you be able to unlock all the tutorials and nutrition guidance and other things. So it's embedding video in short snippets, not necessarily long workouts. It's just, techniques, or it could be nutrition guidelines in the form of recipes or articles. And, they've built this sort of digital community now with depth of content quite quickly as well. And it's all happened over COVID. So that's the supplementary experience that I'm sort of explaining to your existing members, where and you don't have to have a 50 or 100 location brand to do that and execute. You can make it incredibly worthwhile when you have one or just a couple of locations in your network to produce this value added content. And to take it one step further, this brand has also now decided to go further with it. They are going to promote their product digitally as a standalone product as well, because of the immense value that it holds to distribute outside of their four walls. And they're going to engage in marketing to advertise it outside of Australia. This brand's in Melbourne, and they're going to be advertising in the United States, in other areas around the world, and they're going to really get that reach. But they know that there is also that investment that they need in the production quality in order to actually start to market their solution internationally.
Thank you for taking on that question, because I totally didn't prepare you for that. So I appreciate you answering it, but I just think it does help paint the picture of what that looks like. You know, what we have been talking about today, it's essentially that is a great example, and the fact that they've done it quite quickly, and the fact that it is, I guess, a traditional business model that has embraced that digital transformation that we've been talking about. So thank you for sharing that with us. So Jarron, I guess if we were to just look at wrapping all of this up from today, and for our listeners that have listened, that have heard the kind of various viewpoints that you shared with us, they're intrigued by this idea of really taking that next step in adding that supplement to their business, that digital supplement to their business. What is that key advice or that one message that you would want the listeners to walk away with today?
The industry is still hypothesizing on the long-term value of going digital, and whether to go 2 feet in or 1 foot in and this and that. And I would say if you're skeptical about it, certainly still consider leveraging digital with your existing, operations as a value add to your membership base. Keep them sticky, give them so many reasons to stay with your brand longer than whatever their average lifetime value is with you right now. And you can do that through digital, and you don't necessarily have to invest all that much time into it in comparison to necessarily creating a whole standalone business model that's a whole new product arm to your operations. But certainly this is still a consideration that you should definitely be making right now to invest in the long run. And I think that facilities need to be doing that. Every facility needs to be doing that, every business. And there will be those as well that do the second part, but it's not required to create a standalone business here to leverage digital.
Yeah, I have to say, I think what keeps coming back to my mind is that our example that you gave earlier when you talked about the challenge. I really think that it's opportunities like that that just open up so many doors for us to remain connected with our members and with our clients. So I feel like there really is a world of opportunity here, but I'm grateful for you taking time to kind of show us what the world is thinking about, what fitness operators out there are probably considering at the moment, and the fact that, there are ways that they can make this a streamlined process and make it a fantastic digital experience for their members and for their clients. So Jarron, it's always such a pleasure to catch up, and it's lovely to see you over there in New York City at the moment, over the other side of the world. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Chantel. It's great catching up again.
Thank you once again to Jarron for joining me for today's show, and a reminder to find out more information about OneFitStop and to talk to one of the team, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes.